Ukrainian officials say an infant is among at least 4 people killed in Russia's largest air attack of the war. Trey Yangsta is tracking the fallout from Kyiv. Hi, Trey.
Mike, good afternoon. It was the largest air attack by Russia since the war began. More than 800 drones and around a dozen missiles launched into Ukrainian cities, including the capital of Kyiv. We do know at least 4 people were killed and 20 more injured. The most significant target was the Cabinet of Ministers' offices, the first government building to be significantly damaged in Kyiv. You could see black smoke billowing this morning across the skyline. At a nearby apartment complex, we arrived as rescue crews combed through the debris, looking for one man buried under the rubble. Right now, first responders are digging through the rubble of an apartment building in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv. Overnight, it was hit by a Russian drone as part of the largest drone attack against Ukraine since the invasion began in February of 2022. A government building was also hit, and the Ukrainians are bracing for more Russian bombardment. The president of the EU Commission said today, quote, once again, the Kremlin is mocking diplomacy, trampling international law, and killing indiscriminately. European leaders today expressed their support for Ukraine and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky following this brazen attack. At this moment, Kyiv is under air alert again as the country and this capital city wait for more Russian bombardment. Mike?
Trey Yangsta live in Kyiv. Trey, thanks very much. For more on military engagements around the world, let's bring in former military intelligence analyst and Fox News contributor Brett Velicovich. Brett, welcome.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
So vicious attacks from the Russians on Kyiv this weekend. President Zelensky making it clear he wants security guarantees. Let's play him.
The first is a strong Ukrainian army, and I think that everybody understands it. Generals from the EU, United States, they understand that any security guarantees in Ukraine can be based only on our army.
Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin is threatening Western leaders about sending troops to Ukraine, saying, quote, if any troops appear there, especially now while fighting is ongoing, we assume that they will be legitimate targets. How do you assess the war in Ukraine at this stage?
Well, right now, with Russia continuing to issue these warnings as European leaders are meeting with Zelensky, I just think that Putin's words are loud these days because his leverage is shrinking. I mean, every time Russia makes these threats, it only proves how effective Western cooperation has been to support Ukraine. And all it's doing is strengthening NATO unity instead of dividing it. And now Putin has a bigger problem than before, Mike. President Trump is getting tired of his games and starting to see through the lies. He has not lived up to his word when it comes to, what the president has been asking him to do. And honestly, president has made significant and honest efforts to promote a peaceful resolution to all this. And all that will be to the detriment of Putin's plan. I mean, Russia for years has used these threats as diplomatic weapons. And so this is more about them trying to shape the narrative than actual escalation. And Trump has, likely made a very big decision behind the scenes with regards to the next steps after Putin has not really done much after the latest meeting. And European leaders are definitely preparing for what's next and sort of how to flex with these decisions. And them coming together with Zelensky is very important. It plays into Russia's fears of this united front. But in the end, I think President Trump is the only one who can really do something about it. And Europe is going to need to fall in line with his moves.
President Trump has revived the Department of War name with an executive action. I spoke with Florida Republican Congressman Greg Steube, a military veteran, about that. Let's play him.
We shouldn't be just about defense. We should be about offense. You're seeing that going after narco-terrorists. You're seeing that taking out the Iranians' nuclear facilities. We have a different president who stands for strength and honor in our military system.
What's your take on the name?
It's an important move. I mean, it emphasizes action and not reaction. We're not just about protecting Americans after an attack. We're about confronting active threats. And words matter in diplomacy. Calling it war, it reminds the world that America is not going to hesitate to act. In a lot of ways, we are at war, not in the traditional sense where we have troops charging up hills, but war looks a lot different these days. It's covert. It's fought with cyber, AI, drones, offensive intelligence operations. And make no mistake, our adversaries are at war with us. China's been in an economic war with us for years. And so I think renaming this department, it signals to adversaries that America is prepared for conflict if challenged. And that's a defensive posture because Trump has been pretty unapologetic in America's strength and America First leadership. I've seen it firsthand that many of our adversaries saw us as weak and indecisive due to previous administration's actions. And so now they're going to take notice of this, and they already are. We saw the importance of going on the offense, even with Venezuela, going after the cartels who fuel their government and hitting them in international waters before it can hit our shores. And that's what it takes to defend American communities, is going on the offense. So I think we need this change, and it's long overdue.
Then there's a New York Times report on a top secret SEAL Team 6 mission into North Korea back in 2019, which the Times reports fell apart. Quote, a North Korean boat appeared out of the dark, flashlights from the bow swept over the water. Fearing that they had been spotted, the SEALs opened fire. Within seconds, everyone on the North Korean boat was dead. What is your assessment, Brett?
Well, I think just the operation alone inside North Korea territory, it's just about as difficult as it gets, but it reveals just how serious U.S. intelligence and special operations are to monitor North Korea's nuclear threat. And it proves that we're proactive in containing them. And it reminds Pyongyang that the U.S. has the capability to penetrate its defenses. I mean, even though the mission in the end wasn't ultimately successful, I think it's a story of American restraint and proof that we should take a bit more risk, especially if our special operations units can handle this. And even, operations that are aborted, they have value. They shape the adversary's calculations by proving we have the capability and that America is prepared to act anywhere and anytime, but also with responsibility and precision. And so, pretty impressive that we are able to have this readiness, but also operate without recklessness. And so in the end, I think it's a good thing that we're monitoring the nuclear threats within North Korea.
Brett Velicovich, thank you so much for your analysis today.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.